What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. This one is going to be episode 2 of shredding for my wedding. So I will share all the updates as far as what has been happening over the last 4 weeks. If you haven't already seen episode 1, make sure you go back and watch that video, because in that video, I explain everything you need to know about this very spreadsheet, how I set it up, how I track all the variables, how I use the different tabs down here. And if you just jump right into this episode, it's probably not going to make as much sense if you had watched that one. So if you haven't, pause the video, go back and watch that one right now, and then come back to this. The second reason that you should check out episode 1 is because in that video towards the end, I show you how to get a custom workout program for free using AI. And I also share a spreadsheet that shows you how to calculate your own calories and macros to set up your own weight loss diet. So don't miss those resources. And before we dive into the data, I do have a couple of photos to show you guys. The first one is actually not a set of progress photos, but we are officially engaged. So we are doing things a little bit out of order. We had the date picked out, the venue picked out, entertainment packages, like basically all the major things prior to actually getting engaged, but we knew this was coming. We also were doing a custom build for the ring, which took about 6 weeks. So we were soft engaged for a while there, but as of yesterday, May 11th, we got engaged, proposed at a flower field down here in South Florida. Here's a nice photo of us after, got the ring on the finger. This guy's like kind of hiding in the background. That makes me chuckle. And then here's an up close photo of the ring. So if you saw these photos on Instagram and you dropped a like and a comment, thank you for the support. If you're not already following me on Instagram, I did post these already, and I would appreciate your support over there. So it's Tyler_thefitchemist.phd. Go drop a like, leave a comment. And now the photos that you guys are actually here for are the progress photos. So as you can see, May 23rd, I was sitting around 184.8, which is when I started the 2 weeks of maintenance here. And then now I'm sitting around 176.8. So I'm down about 8 pounds in, what is this, 5 weeks of actually doing fat loss. So incredible progress here. I'm really happy with how everything is going so far. As you can see, I've definitely started to lean up, especially in my midsection. My abs are starting to make an appearance again. Woo woo, just in time for summer down here in Florida. My shoulders, you can see there's a little bit of definition here. And then if I go to the back shot, you can see I'm starting to lean up in the lower back, not too much. It's more apparent in the side shot, but here you can see getting some rear delt definition, and then upper traps as well. Also the triceps, you can see that too, like it's starting to lean out here. I've even noticed that in the mirror. And then this one, you can see a little bit more arm definition coming in, biceps starting to separate from the shoulders and triceps. Over here, I was just one thick boy of mass. And then here you can see lower back too, starting to lean out as well. The side area and obliques hasn't really come up that much yet. But one thing that I wanted to mention, there's 6 weeks between these photos and 4-ish to 5 weeks of dieting. So just keep in mind, you're not going to see a ton of progress over 4 weeks in progress photos. There's still definitely a good idea to do weekly, or at the very least, I would say bi-weekly, worst case scenario once a month, just so that way you can track as things go along. But the data in terms of the scale and body fat percentage is going to be more of what guides your day to day. And with that out of the way, let's now dive into the actual data. So if we come in here, we can see my average weight this past week, 177.2. Avatar is this app here. That showed 176.8, just because the way that I set up my check-in spreadsheet, the days are different. I believe their weeks start on a Monday and I start my weeks on a Sunday. So that's the discrepancy if you guys are wondering. But either way, 177.2 versus 176.8. Not that big of a difference. And you can see average weight here went from 184.4 all the way down there. So 7 to 8 pounds, depending on how you want to call it. And keep in mind, my goal here was 1.25 pounds per week. So if I do that for 5 weeks, that puts me at 6.25 pounds. So again, if I'm at 7 to 8 pounds over that duration, that basically puts me ahead of schedule, which is nice because then I have some extra wiggle room. I don't have to fret about anything as I'm going through the diet phase. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out on this progress tab before we hop into the macros section, and you can see more of that day to day. But here I'm still doing 3 weightlifting sessions with 0 cardio, right? And just focusing on a step goal. So during my maintenance, I was averaging around 8K steps per day, but then starting April 6th of this year, so what was that, 5-ish weeks ago, I just started going for 45-minute walks every single morning to up my step count. So it went to 12K. I think there was some extra activity that week as far as like park hangouts, playing spike ball, things of that nature. So that's why it was much higher. But then we got into the remaining weeks, and you can see it falls around 10K. This week was a little bit lower. This week was a little over that. But overall, average is somewhere around 10K. So just being mindful of that. If weight loss starts to slow, then I will either up my step count to actually hit 12K per day, or that's when I might consider putting some cardio into the mix. But since I'm already ahead of schedule with weight loss, like everything's working, I don't see the need to put cardio in right now. One of my core philosophies with the guys that join our program is that I want to see them lose weight on as little activity as possible, because if the scale stalls out, you have two options, man. You can either reduce your calories, which I really don't want to do. I want to keep them as high as possible for as long as possible, or you can add in cardio or steps, right? So right now, everything's rocking and rolling. I don't need to increase step counts or cardio just yet. Another thing that I wanted to point out was that this week was a deload week. So I still hit all 3 of my workouts, but they were much lower intensity, probably 50 to 60% of what I normally do. If you're not familiar with deloads, the point of them is to give your muscles a chance to recover. So that way you can kind of like slingshot into the next week and keep seeing progress. Or in my case, since I'm in a cut, maintaining the muscle mass that I have, because making gains at this point in my career of lifting 10 plus years, not so easy to do when I'm in a calorie deficit. But the reason I did that is because I had 6 weeks straight, including my 2 maintenance and then 4 fat loss weeks, of just training at really high intensity. And when I woke up last Monday, I could just tell, like, my body was so beat up, recovery was bad. I felt like I wasn't sleeping that well. And my hope was that by doing this, I would actually sleep better. My muscles would have a chance to recover. But as you can see from my average sleep score here, it was actually lower. It was 69.2. I don't know why. For whatever reason, my body started to wake me up at like 5:55 one morning or like 6:20 one morning. No alarm, mind you. So I'm also going through like a caffeine detox right now. I'm sure that's playing into it. But I could also feel that the diet was starting to get to me in terms of the hunger, and just noticing that I was a little bit more hungry going to bed. And I feel like that played a role into it as well. So that will be something that I continue to monitor. Maybe I switch around snacks, or I save some calories for the end of the day just to make sure that as I go to sleep, my stomach does feel full and that's not interrupting sleep progress. But either way, come this Monday, right after my deload, I am feeling really good right now, and I'm ready to hit it hard again starting tomorrow, which is the exact goal, right? Like, I want my body to feel good again, and I also want to get back into that mindset of like, oh yeah, I'm ready to train hard, instead of just always pounding yourself into the ground until you get to a point of fatigue, exhaustion, burnout, and then you fall off the wagon and you stay off the wagon for months. If we look at average strain scores according to my Apple Watch, we can see this week was 28.2, which makes sense. It's lower than the other weeks when I was training at a higher intensity. This column is just average weight. So you can see again, 184.2 down to 177.2. This one tracks how much weight I lost on a weekly basis, which is cool because you can see some weeks I was way over. Like, my goal was 1.25. This week I lost 1.7. The week after, 2.2, 1.8, way ahead of schedule. And then you can see the last couple of weeks it slowed down. It was 0.9, 0.6, which, couple of factors. It's typically normal to lose more weight than you were anticipating in the first couple of weeks of a diet phase, because you're getting rid of some inflammation, bloating, indigestion, things of that nature. Your body's kind of clearing out some of the excess stuff that it was holding on to. But also you can see my calories have not been nearly as on point the last 2 weeks as they were the previous 4 weeks, which I just wanted to point out, because even though, yes, I'm a personal trainer, yes, I'm a fitness and nutrition coach, I am still a human too. I am susceptible to those mistakes, susceptible to going over on calories, to sometimes giving into cravings. Like, I'm a human too, right? Like, I don't always hit everything with 100% consistency. However, the difference is that I know how to course correct and get back on track, whereas a lot of you guys watching probably resonate with this, where once something like this happens and you're over on calories, maybe the scale starts to go up. Instead of seeing slower progress, it starts to trend in the other direction, and that's when you quit and you throw in the towel. But take my advice, do not do that. Not a good idea. The only other thing to look at on the progress dashboard is body fat percentage column. So you can see that it's trending downward nicely from 15.5% down to 14.4%, which makes sense if we go and we look at these photos, because obviously I am losing body fat, right? Otherwise my abs would not be nearly as visible here as they are compared to this photo. So now what I want to do is zoom in onto these 2 weeks and just give you guys some valuable feedback and coaching moments and just let you in on what I was doing, what I'm thinking, how I'm changing, if anything, right? So looking forward to some good coaching moments here. Again, this macros tab, if you watched episode 1, has literally everything. My daily calories, my daily weigh-ins, my macros, my macro targets. I have my steps, sleep, and strain scores from my watch. But what I wanted to point out again was that the first couple of weeks, compliance was unreal, right? 100%, 98% with calories, 100% on calories, 99% on calories. Everything was good until this week. Now, what I really want to point out was going into this week, April 27th. So if I go back to my progress tab, that is this week right here. So keep in mind, going into this week, I had seen 3 weeks of amazing fat loss progress. So I was basically 2 weeks ahead of schedule already. So in my mind, that was a cue of, hey, I can take a diet break this week. If you guys don't know what a diet break is, I'll go ahead, put a time card up here. You can click that link. I have a video on it, or I will link it down in the video description below as well. But essentially, a diet break is almost like a deload week, but for your diet. So I would increase my calories and increase my macros throughout the week just to give my body a break from actually dieting before going back into a calorie deficit. Now, the reason that I did not do a full diet break, because the diet break is usually for like a week or maybe 2 weeks in duration. There's something else called a refeed, which is a diet break, but it's a much shorter version of it. So maybe 2 days over a weekend. And that's exactly what I did because I was planning on taking a diet break for this week. However, on May 2nd and May 3rd, I was going to Miami with my fiance because we were doing some taste testing for our wedding caterer. So instead of taking the full week, I recognized, hey, I'm going to be traveling. That Friday, we're going to do the taste testing, and I don't want to have to say no to literally anything in sight. I just want to be able to enjoy and be present for that moment, which is the day that led to 4,300 calories. I'm not joking. I ate so many appetizers, so many sides. There's like truffle mac and cheese, loaded baked potato casserole, the most amazing mashed potatoes I've ever had. I did get some veggies in. They had amazing broccoli and carrots there. They had this delicious basmati rice, and then all the meats galore, man. All these steaks, chicken, sausages, and I enjoyed all of it. And then the day after that, that Saturday, my fiance and I, we went to Miami Seaquarium to swim with some dolphins. So we were in the park, and obviously limited food choices and availability there. And then after that, we were traveling home from Miami, and we stopped at Cava, which, by the way, if you're ever traveling, Cava is one of my favorite restaurants to get on the go because you can get protein, veggies, and healthy carb sources. But either way, I was still over on calories that day. After I had 4,300 calories, the next day, I actually went from 178 down to 177.4, which that surprised me. I was expecting it to go up to maybe 179 to 180, and I was fully prepared to see that on the scale. Wasn't going to freak out about it because, again, this was a planned going over on calories because Friday and Saturday is what I counted as my refeed days. But what's interesting is that after we got home and after that kava meal on Saturday, I was up to 179.4. So again, imagine going from 177.2 up to 179.4 over the course of a couple of days. Most guys would freak out about that and be like, oh my gosh, I totally undid everything. I just ruined my weight loss progress. But I've played the game for long enough to know that those fluctuations are totally a part of the game. And if you can see, as I got back to my normal diet, right, 2,900 calories, dialed it back in to 2,600, 2,500, 2,600, I started to see the scale go down again, 178.2, 177.2, and then I even had a new low of 175.6. So if you wanted to get super, maybe not nitpicky is the right word, but if you, depending on how you track the data, if I go all the way up to here, right, I was 185.6. And then if I come down here, I'm 175.6. So from 331, basically end of March to the first week of May, I'm down 10 pounds, right? But even though I saw that new low of 175.6, I did see the scale creep up a little bit, 176.6 and then 177. And I believe today was 177.6, if I'm not mistaken, because I just wasn't as tight with my calories over the weekend. And this is where I just wanted to be vulnerable. Like I said earlier, even though I'm a personal trainer, I'm not perfect. I noticed that hunger started to rise. So these couple of nights where I went over was because there was some late night snacking. Like I was already at my calories and macros for the day. And then I would come home and I would open the fridge and be like, oh, that looks good. Or, oh, I'll just nibble on this for a little bit. And I'm honest enough to track that because I want to actually be clear on where I'm at, and then I can have these conversations with myself and now with you guys since I'm posting this on YouTube. But that's my plan for this week, is to eliminate that late night snacking, dial back in the macros, and if I had to guess, that's when I'm going to start to see more progress again, because remember, progress has slowed the last couple of weeks, because this week, again, that's when we had the refeed week and I was way over on calories, 4,300 calorie day, 3,400 calories the next day. And then this week, things slowed down again, because as I'm getting back into it, this was a deload week, so I just wasn't burning as many calories as I usually am. And then again, I was still a little bit over my target. My target right now is 2571. I was about 150 calories over that. So the plan for this week is to get back after it in the gym and start burning all of those calories again. And then the second thing that I am adjusting here is that instead of just finishing my calories for the day at dinner and relying on my own willpower to not snack later in the day, what I'm actually going to do is allow myself to have that nighttime snack and then back calculate what my calories should look like for lunch, dinner, breakfast, etc. And what I plan to do is actually bust out my Ninja Creamy, and I'm going to start making some high protein chocolate ice cream or high protein cookies and cream ice cream, whatever it might be, because I usually have a sweet tooth at night. If I had to guess, a lot of you guys watching do as well. But I'm going to have a whole pint of ice cream for 200, 300 calories, and that's going to help me stay on track with my goals. So the last thing that I want to leave you guys with is that progress is not always linear, but you can learn from it. And what I mean by that is if we go to this progress tab, you can see I'm not losing a clean 1.25 pounds every single week. And if I look at my daily weigh-in data, you can see it fluctuates 1 to 2 pounds every single day. However, if you're tracking all this data, you can start to notice key trends and takeaways, and that's going to help you dictate what it is you're going to do for the upcoming week. Because remember, we do not want to make decisions based on feelings. We want to make decisions based on data. But that's all I've got for Shredding for My Wedding episode 2. The next one should drop in about another 4 to 5 weeks after we make some more considerable progress. I would hope to be somewhere around like the 172 to 173 mark at least by that point, but I guess we'll have to wait until that one to see. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe, turn those notification bells on so you don't miss when I post new videos. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.